Saxon Tales. The King Who Threw Away His Throne by Deary. Chapter 1. The Fool. King Vortigern was a fool. Yes, I know. Kings are supposed to be wise. Old kings like Vortigern are supposed to be wiser than an owl, finer than a peacock, and cleverer than a jackdaw. Vortigern was none of these things. But, as I say, Vortigern was a fool. He had more brains in his long white beard than he did in his skull. How do I know? I know because I was there. I was a servant in the royal court, and it was a dangerous place to be. How did a fool come to be a king, you ask? They say that when Vortigern was young, long before I was born, this Britain was ruled by the mighty Romans. They put Vortigern on the throne in South Britain. He was weak, and the Romans knew he would do what they told him to do. Then the Romans left, and we Britons were as helpless as piglets in our pen. Our enemies gathered their strength. When I first arrived at Vortigern's palace as a kitchen boy, it had been calm. Then a messenger arrived on a sweating horse with fear in his face. "Where is the King Vortigern?" the man groaned. "What's wrong?" the chief cook asked. "Give me a cup of your best ale and I'll tell you," the panting rider gasped. The chief cook turned to me. "Get the poor man a cup of ale, Mervyn." As I walked past him to the palace pantry, he whispered, "The cheap stuff will be good enough for him." I hurried back with the cup. The rider pulled a face as he supped the bitter beer. "If that's your best beer, then I'd hate to taste your worst." The cook just said, "Here's the captain of the guard. Give him your message." The rider rose to his feet. "I've ridden all the way from York, and I have a message for King Vortigern." The captain said, "Take off your sword belt and dagger, and I'll let you see him." The messenger shrugged and dropped the belt to the floor of the hallway and followed the captain into the great hall. I picked up the half-empty cup of ale and followed. Vortigern was playing chess with his son, Faustus. He was the youngest son, with a nose like a ferret's snout and teeth to match. The king was stroking his beard as if he thought it would help his next move. He looked up with his watery, hazel eyes and blinked. "Greetings, my friend. I can see by the dust on your leggings that you've ridden a long way today." "Yes, my lord. 3 days ago I was in York." "Ah, York, the city of mellow stone and fine churches. How are the churches?" "Burning, sire. Wild men from Scotland have been raiding further and further south. 3 days ago they reached York, and they've killed King Constans, Lord of North Britain." Vortigern's thick eyebrows rose. "Oh, such a shame. Poor Constans. I suppose that makes me the king of the whole of Britain now. All those northern taxes to fill my money chests." The messenger shook his head and rode. Dust drifted down. "There won't be much tax to collect," he sighed. "The Scots steal what they can, move and burn what they can't. The peasants are starving." Vortigern's blinking was faster. "Oh dear, why do these Scots have to be so unpleasant? We are neighbours. Why can't they stay on their side of Hadrian's wall and live in peace with us?" Now, I could have told him the answer to that. Farming is hard work. It killed my mother and father, which is why I ended up as a kitchen servant. Farmers have to go out to freeze in the winter snows and be baked in the summer sun, gathering the hay and shearing the sheep and hauling the animal food to the barns that they had to build to keep out the wolves. Not many peasant men live past 30 years. Why did the Scots raid the farms of North Britain? Because it was easier than farming. Before anyone could explain this simple thing to this simple king, the great hall doors crashed open and a messenger even dustier than the one from York limped in. I handed him the ale cup because he looked like he needed something. He took a mouthful, then he spat it on the rushes of the floor. "Dreadful news, King Vortigern. Britain is being invaded." The king gave his smile, as wise as an infant. "I know, my son. The Scots have reached York." "No, sire," the messenger cut in. It's not the Scots. It's something much worse. And they're in Kent to the east, much closer than York. It's the Saxon hordes, and they will be here within 5 days. We have to flee."